and welcome to DDOCast episode 397, recorded live on Saturday, September 5th. I'm your host, Patrick. This week's screenshot, a trap becomes useful when fighting hobgoblins, in the 237th screenshot of the week. It comes from Quijon, and that is in STK Part 3. Fun little fire trap there. We like to talk about Dungeons & Dragons online nearly every weekend. You can watch us through Twitch, YouTube, the DDO forums, or from our website at DDOcast.com. DDOcast is hosted by CyberEars, the awesome podcast hosting network. Shows are usually available within a few days of recording. The next show will probably be next Saturday, September 12th. You can stay updated by following us on social media pages, particularly at DDOcast on Twitter, or our website at DDOcast.com. We have a calendar there, as well as some other fun stuff like old shows, swag. There's still it still automatically posts other people's blogs and stuff. Although I need to do some updating work on that very badly, and I'm gonna get to that eventually. But this week on the podcast, we've got a little bit of game news. We've got some community news, and we also have another installment of DDO debates. So let's introduce our panel this week. She started our DDO, Players Helping Players, and she still blogs. She also has a thing for green and soulstones. She's Evennote.
Hey, Patrick, and yes, I definitely have a thing for soulstones.
And
Welcome
green.
back.
And green.
From the Lotro and DDO Players News, where he's the co-host. He's also working through every class on low-level permadeath. Please welcome Pineleaf Needles.
Welcome, everyone.
Your first DDOcast show, I think. Actually,
That's what I believe.
Welcome back. We've had Dracula
Unless I
on a few
completely
times
forgot
as well,
one.
but
Do you have any
Probably not.
hazing rituals for the first DDO cast?
sort of. We'll get to that later.
Okay.
I can't spoil it, right?
Okay.
No, the DDOcast hazing ritual should be something like locking you in a room with Lessa and Samus for a night.
Wait, I did that outside of DDO cast.
Be a-
Can I get
Video, it
placement-
didn't
Can I
happen.
get placement credit?
Speaking, she plays DDO with a crazy moose. She's run several Shadowpaloozas on Twitch. She also has an Owlbear Sanctuary, and she sings about DDO. Please welcome back BonnieBew.
An owlbear
Hello.
sanctuary?
Yes, I do. It's a sanctuary for owlbears to keep them alive.
Is this
And
on canon?
Don't let anybody tell you different.
The really strange thing is this Owlbear Sanctuary has owlbear decorations.
Yeah,
of skins
I mean,
of owl
okay,
bears?
okay. Well, they have the room available in the Temple of Elemental Evil. That's where the sanctuary is, and I've heard rumors that maybe, sometimes things happen in the Temple of Elemental Evil with owlbears. But
Wait,
I
decorations? Owlbear
I-
decorations in an owl. Do you have owlbear heads on the wall of your owlbear sanctuary?
I didn't put them there. But yeah,
That's
I
not
just
what I
put
heard.
owlbears. I don't know what else happens at the sanctuary. There's so many people
What
just
happens at
visiting
the
the sanctuary all the time.
In other words, it's not a sanctuary for owlbears. It's a sanctuary made of owlbears.
Well, I do like to accessorize, but I like owlbears too.
In any case, welcome to the show. We're gonna be
I'm
off topic
never
a little bit,
asking you
probably.
for a ship invite again, Bonnie.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
So for Theo debates this week, each guest will be given the opportunity to give an opening argument. We'll do a rotating order. Arguments should be creative, passionate, amusing, and factual, but should not be mean. Counterpoints are encouraged, and interruptions are allowed at my discretion. So you'll probably get away with a lot of that. If everyone chooses the same debate, we might pick a troll just to make it more interesting. Points will be arbitrarily awarded at my discretion and have absolutely no meaning, and the winner will get nothing at the end. I used to do the points and actually make it serious and stuff,
Yeah.
but that was just a lot of work and a lot less
Points
fun.
are hard. Yeah.
Yeah.
All that math and stuff.
It wasn't just the math; it was just not as
Remembering,
fun.
keep track.
Well, I was keeping track and trying to pick the arguments, and it was a lot
What?
more stressful.
Well, in the end, I think that's one of the reasons why on Lotro Players News we changed the name from the debate to the skirmish and had a much more relaxed attitude on it and didn't score at the end.
See, the DDO debates has a nice alliteration to it, though. So
Well, yeah,
probably
there
didn't go
is
anywhere.
that.
When did you start doing the skirmishes?
Well, it started out as a debate about maybe about 9 months ago, and then about a few months after that, we just changed the name to skirmishes and changed the rules to it because we used to try to pick a winner and stuff like that. And so instead, what we do is we take a lore topic and compare what it's like, pros and cons for the movies, the books, and the games.
Fun. I was
So
just
if
kind
you
of
did
curious
something
because
similar in D&D, I guess you'd be comparing pen and paper to maybe pen and paper to how DDO works, maybe compare to how other implementations of D&D operate.
I'm trying to remember if we've done that on the show or not, or if it was still in my queue of questions.
The
I've
first
had some of that
DDO
stuff.
debate topic was perfect for awarding points because it was about metagames, so it was really more like opinions about the game rather than actual game content, I think, in a sense. But then everything was about game content, and everybody has a good argument.
The
So
arguments do tend to be pretty
it's
pretty
hard.
good.
It's hard to say that somebody's like really hit the nail on the head more than somebody else.
Yep, that's why I made it easier. So, in any case, we're going to start off with our first question. We're going to be talking about low-level content is the debate structure. So, kind of just to give everyone a frame of reference, we're mostly talking about levels 1 to 7. Quest levels, character levels, we're just kind of generally talking about in that frame of just kind of give an idea of where we are and what quests we're talking about. We're talking about this content, so people aren't thinking about other stuff. It's not a hard and fast level range, but that's kind of where we're going to be focusing. The first question is, what is the best class to play pure at lower levels? We're going to start with Evennote.
Well, I don't think there's one single right answer to that. Each class has advantages and disadvantages, and also people have different personal preferences and abilities. I know people who are awesome at playing fighters who struggle playing casters and vice versa. That said, Zorks and especially wizards can be really tough at low levels because they don't really have a lot of powerful spells yet. They're not really self-healing, and they're pretty squishy. They don't have good AC. If I had to pick one class, I think I would probably go with Monk. I've played every class except Druid and Artie to cap. Out of all of them, when I first rolled up my Monk, she was the one who just blew me away at the lower levels.
Pineleaf?
Well, in my case, it's blowing away the opposition, and I will consider that to be the Artificer. And the reason for the Artificer is you've got really nice ranged combat for blowing up the opposition. And the second thing that you really have is that this is a class that doesn't have to worry about traps as much as many others. So you have the rogue's ability to survive traps and to unlock things, and you've got the ranged combat in order to kill the opposition. So I do know that some people play Artificers with a little bit more melee style than I do, but I tend to do it at range. But I really love being able to open up those chests and have that aspect of the rogue splashed into it.
Bonnie?
I'm kind of like along the lines of Evennote in the sense that I think all classes, but when you're talking about low-level content between levels 1 and 7, every class is a breeze to play. And I don't really feel like they distinguish themselves a lot, like really start getting into the juicy stuff until you're at least level 5 or maybe level 7. So I play everything the same way. I grab a weapon, and I craft it, whether it's a great axe or a stick, and I buy up some serious wound pots and I just go at it. So I think they're all the same. But if I was, say, a permadeathy kind of playing person like Pineleaf, I'd probably go with the Paladin because, just the having some armor class, having some lay on hands for those oh my gosh moments, being able to, just do the DPS damage. What's not to love?
Fight it out. knock the other classes down. Why is your class better?
I don't particularly like monks. But
I think I heard
and
that will
I'm
kick your butt.
I'm taking the sense that well, you'd have to craft some hand wraps to use. It's always the hand wraps, I think, is that bread and butter of monks. You know, you got to have the right hand wraps to get some love. So I feel like that's kind of like a gear-based class choice. And artificers have pros and cons. I mean, I think it just depends on how you build them. But to me, really at heart, artificers are something that I always feel when I played them that they don't come into their own until later levels. So that's definitely one that when I'm an artificer, I'm usually something that's forged, and I'm usually using some kind of great axe until I get a spell I like, or I until I get flame turret, basically. So that's not necessarily that super low a level. So paladins, yay!
Yeah, but you have repeating crossbows to skewer the opposition.
This is true. You do have repeating crossbows, and you don't have to necessarily be hugging everything. So that's good. So I would go for artificer before I went for monk, but I would totally go for paladin before I went for artificer or monk.
If I remember correctly, the paladin was the first class I ever did permadeath on. I didn't last very long. I think it was level 3 where I got killed.
But it was your first permadeath attempt, right? So you hadn't done any of the quests before.
Well, it was on a quest I had done before. I'm pretty sure it was in the waterworks.
Oh, the waterworks. Da-da-da-dum.
Yes.
I've only ever played an arty to level 8, and I obviously my main is a paladin. I can't say enough good things about them. At lower levels, though, I think I would still take the monk. Just crazy insane DPS. You get a little bit of evasion going on. It helps you avoid the traps. You can outrun just about anything because you're very speedy. And paladins, I mean, like I said, I love my paladin, but she doesn't start really wowing me until she gets, up to level 4, gets a couple spells, gets enough lay on hands to make a difference.
He's gonna make you pick off of this, aren't you? These are all good choices. I would say though that since nobody picked them and they're brought up a little bit, I think the wizard and sorcerer classes they tend to bloom late. You see most of those folks running around with great swords in their hands for the first 5 levels. So
Well, that's strange because usually I'm using wands for the low levels when I'm doing those classes.
it's an option. So I like everyone had some really good points. Like what Pineleaf was saying about artificers and the range combat. It's easy to stay alive when they can't get you. Paladins, the defense and the healing that comes along with them is great. And monks, they do have pretty good early DPS, and evasion and speed is a good pick. I'm going to give 300 XP to everybody. Solid arguments all the way around. Great choice. All 3 great choices for low-level content. I would say of all of them, personally, Monk is probably the one that's going to peter out the earliest in terms of strength and power in today's environment. But that's kind of my own estimation. I think Paladin and Artificer are going to play better longer, personally.
I don't think it's so much that monks peter out as much as, especially with Paladin, has been improved so much. I love the Paladin changes. Acanthia just capped her second monk life, and she's still going pretty strong. But yeah, even is pretty darn near indestructible.
That is not my experience on my monk.
Another thing about monks.
No, even the Paladin.
Stunning
Acanthia
is like if you
Acanthia,
start
I
out
wouldn't say is indestructible, but she does okay.
like at low levels, if you're starting out with stunning fists on a monk, then that is kind of cool.
Yeah, stunning fist is something that was missed, that wasn't mentioned. Against monks, they have lower PRR. I mean, early levels, it's not as big a deal. You can get high dodge and decent AC early, quickly, but just start getting a little higher, you start running into some problems.
The reason why I didn't really talk about monks is because that word pure in the question, because I just wouldn't go completely pure with the monk. So I just didn't really even think about that.
These are things you're supposed to bring up during the debates.
Yes.
Oh, oops. Oops.
Great things to bring up during the debate. But anyways, we're going to move on here. And this quest actually comes from Draculetta. What is the best low-level quest? We're going to start with Pineleaf.
The best low-level quest. Well, then, I would say that one quest. I have to narrow it down to one single quest, right?
Yeah.
Ooh, that's always a tough, because the first thing that comes into my mind is the capstone of the entire of this range, and that, of course, is the temple.
You can pick that.
Yeah, so the Temple of Elemental Evil, it's the capstone of the area. So this is, in a way, this is what all the prep work you have been doing for these first 7 levels is leading you up to, so that you can be ready to survive this monstrosity of a dungeon. So you have to be ready to commit some time to it before you do it.
Bonnie?
Now, I can't argue super hard about the Temple of Elemental Evil because it's pretty awesome. You know, it's a really neat thing. I wouldn't do it necessarily if we're talking about level 7. I wouldn't be doing it level 7. I'd be doing it like later because of the archers and things like that, and not having necessarily a displacement. I'd want displacement and stuff. So when I was thinking about the answer to this question, I was kind of just throwing all the other stuff out of the window, like not thinking about what was a good XP farm, not thinking about what might have the greatest loot, not really thinking about what is the most sprawling epicness of all of them at lower levels like Temple is. I just thought about what quest, every time I play it, am I just kind of amazed by just how neat it is, liking the storytelling and liking the intricacy and the options that you have when you do it. So I think the best quest, just in terms of design and visuals and the experience, is Party Crashers. Because it's like the only quest you can do where you don't actually have to have an infight. And I love that so much. I think it's an amazing quest, wonderful thing that they put together there.
Oh, wait. If I remember correctly, that's the first time I tried that one. Actually, every time I think both times I did that one, I think I remember a lot of death being involved in that.
A lot of death, but it's good death.
Death is fun.
It's worth it.
Evennote? Let's get Evennote in here and get her, and then we can go off and debate.
Well, as much as I love TOEE and Party Crashers is cool, although at low levels I want to be fighting. I want that end fight. I want the experience. The P word is coming up here, Bonnie. My first instinct was I like the depth chain because there are so many different monsters. There's elementals and trogs and ogres. There's locks and stuff for your rogue so it doesn't feel left out. You can run it really, really quick. You can take your time and explore it all. It's not great XP, but it's not terrible. And it's just fun. There's a lot of collectibles if you're into that. But honestly, and this is just my personal preference, the pit is the ruler of all quests. I run that for fun on my totally epic level capped characters. If you can conquer the pit, and let me tell you, the first time I ran the pit, it kicked my, can I say ass on here?
Sure.
It totally, I think somehow we managed to get to the 3rd furnace room with many, many deaths before we finally, totally wiped. And I swore I was never going back in there.
Okay.
And I did go back in there. I had someone told me, oh, there's no way you could ever solo the pit. So I smiled and nodded and waited till he was offline. And it took me 4 hours, but that was only the second time I went in, and I soloed the damn pit. And what is the pit? Patrick, how do you pick your guests?
The pit is what all of Evennote's dreams are made of.
The pit is the next quest the damsels are going to take and drag you through.
Oh yes, they should.
Oh, if that happens, I
If
totally
you
want to run it.
haven't done the pit yet, you need to just try the pit and check it out.
Take a friend.
I mean, I can't argue about really. I mean, this is something hard because everybody's picked a quest that I think is special in DDO. And I mean, the pit, what's special about it is it's not a linear quest, it's a vertical quest. So it's another one that has a very special design to it. And lots of challenges, lots of variation in what you need to do to complete the quest successfully. Um, and I mean, Temple is just sprawling. It's based on a classic module. It's you've got to love that stuff if you like Dungeons and Dragons.
So this looks like then another capstone to this region. It looks like another level 7er.
Well, yeah,
It is a level 7 quest.
It was an old school, and it gives so much XP.
It's not a very popular quest because its map is almost completely useless because it's essentially one center shaft with 2 sets of ramps, and then there's 9 rooms off of that you have to go into. So navigating is tricky. There's a lot of puzzles. There's a lot of Mario. There's a couple Mario sections where you got to jump up.
Ah, okay, that explains it. Actually, it looks like I attempted to go into this quest once and couldn't figure out how to get past the first door.
Yeah, it's one of those quests where there's a learning curve to it, and the first time you're unless you go into it the very first time you're doing this quest with somebody who knows what they're doing, it's kind of hard to like figure it out. But once you learn how to do the pit, then it's like a cult where you're like, oh, pit, it's the pit time, and it's a good quest.
Which option are you arguing for here,
Good
Bonnie?
XP. And at the end, if your hireling I missed that.
I'm arguing for everything because I like all 3 of these quests that have been mentioned. Now, Party Crashers, I love Party Crashers. Now, visually, it doesn't look like really anything else. Like when you go into the Illusionarium and everything, and you get to that section where you need to break a mark, and there's like these little fairies flying around and stuff. You don't see that anywhere else in the game, and you get to run into characters that are part of the lore of Eberron, of Stormreach, of all these different characters that you've run into before, and then there's like little quirks and reasons where you can use skills that you don't necessarily get to use all the time, like your bluffing and being able to true seeing or intimidation and things like that. And there's so many different areas within the quest, and I think there's so much that you can do that, and plus there is that option where you can do little side quests and stuff and change the outcome of how the quest ends. And there aren't really a lot of quests in the game that work that way.
Actually,
well, remember, in the pit, when you're all done, if your hireling has pissed you off, you can drop all the way to the bottom, order the hireling to stand in the lava, and put him on do nothing, do not heal yourself mode, and then sit there and laugh while he dies. That's pretty damn awesome.
I do that anyway.
Well, I guess because we were talking about the Illusionarium with all those figures from Eberron, I guess because my D&D comes from a Greyhawk background, that, of course, helps to reinforce the Temple of Elemental Evil for me, since that fits the Greyhawk background.
And another thing in favor of Temple of Elemental Evil is it has giant frogs. And, and it has my owlbear sanctuary. So I can't say that Temple of Elemental Evil isn't great just because it's got my owlbear sanctuary and giant frogs.
Well, everybody should at least go pick up the pit and read the restart guide. Although to really appreciate the humor of the restart guide, you need to run the pit because the restart guide is so completely hilariously useless. As I found out the hard way the first time I read it, that restart guide is freaking awesome.
That restart
and
guide.
And it's little things, the Easter eggs, like in the beginning of the Princess Bride reference, nobody escapes the pit of despair.
And you always need to have a copy of the pit restart guide whenever you're having linking wars about gear with people. That's a perfect thing to link to people.
That and a Club of the Holy Flame.
Yes. Yes.
And
Or
you
a big
know,
stack of tasty
a couple
ham.
or a couple masterwork bolts or arrows or whatever.
And I think ultimately all three of these quests, what I'm getting out of this is if you haven't done all three of these quests and you're playing Dungeons and Dragons Online, you probably should do them because I think they kind of compose this really awesome picture at the low-level quests of the low-level quests of what's best about DDO, what kind of awesomeness you can experience playing this game.
Yeah, because they are all really awesome in different ways. They're all very unique. They're fun. They're good XP.
Yeah, distinctly different, but they're all DDO. They're all Dungeons and Dragons in their own sense, and they're all amazing.
All right, so I'm going to give Evennote. You get 300 XP for picking a quest that is picking the pit, which is a great quest and one of my favorites. And I'm playing favorites there. Pineleaf, I love the kind of the idea that it is very much a capstone for what's going on. So I'm going to give you 200 XP, and then everyone gets 300 XP for Bonnie's arguments.
I thought you were going to give me 100 XP for arguing for everybody else's quest.
No, I'll just give everyone 300 XP for your arguments.
Thanks, Bonnie.
Yay!
Grimord from the chat also mentioned proof is in the poison for this one. But he did agree that pit is awesome and has a good point that Les's map of the pit is fantastic.
Yes.
So if you're trying to navigate through there and you don't know where you're going, you can look that up. It's a great option. The next question is, what quest is the best XP farm? And this time we're going to start with Bonnie.
You know, this question, I was like, I need to do a spreadsheet and I need to do like a statistical model. But then I got bored and decided to like listen to music instead and stuff. But I did pick out what I thought were probably going to be like the leaders of like, okay, let's compare the XP. Let's look at what optionals are available. Let's look at what kind of things are available, whether, traps are there, if you can get some kind of trap bonus for ingenious debilitation, whether there's any kind of observance bonus, that kind of stuff, and add it all up and multiply and do things. And I'm not going to go with the one that actually came out on top. I'm not going to do it because the time factor. I'm going to go for the one because when I think best XP farm, I think what can you do the fastest and what can you repeat quickly and what do you not necessarily need to have a full party necessarily to do successfully really fast. So I went with the missing party that's part of the Dolaris chain because that's part 2 of the Dolaris chain because you only have to have 2 people or yourself and a hireling, assuming your hireling is not insane like some hirelings currently are, because there's a whole lot of optional XP. There's a whole lot of optional XP if you have a couple people and you can split and do a swarm and have like one person doing the underwater part while the other person runs ahead and does everything else. You can get it done in like under 10 minutes, and the XP per minute is really high up there, almost on the level of some level 7 quests that I considered, some other level 7 quests that I considered.
Evennote?
I was thinking more a bit lower levels. The first thing I actually farm for XP when I have a new tune or a recent TR is Kobold's New Ringleader. I go over to Korthos, I do a quick elite run through, and then I farm KNR. It's very quick. I mean, if you don't smash the crate in the beginning, do the jump over, take the shortcut. A lot of chests if you want them. Pretty good XP. And I've also known, I myself have pulled a Dusty Rose Ion Stone from there. I had a former guildie who pulled a +3 Heart of Wood. And lower levels, I would say also Ire Stone is good, but it's a lot longer and it's a lot tougher at level. And there's also, if you want to go just the free-to-play stuff like Tyr and Gwillens and Red Willows.
Hey, pick one. Single quest.
I'm going to stick with Kobold's New Ringleader. That is the first one I farm.
Pineleaf?
What's an XP farm? Seriously though, I have not intentionally farmed repeatedly a quest for XP. I usually just go through them the first time as if it were a quest series, and I do not normally repeat quests, especially just not for XP.
That's fair. Do you have a quest that you like for XP in particular?
That I like for XP is not what I'm thinking of when I'm usually running. So that's the.
That's fair.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't have the farming mentality, I guess you could say, when I'm playing the game.
Yeah, because you're playing permadeath, so you're basically looking to get out of there alive.
Yes, you got it.
XP is just like icing on the top.
That's pretty much. Well, I do try to hit as many of the optionals as I can, assuming that they're not optionals that are going to get you quickly killed. I mean, like, I'm looking at you, Arcane Sorcerer, in.
In sacrifices?
Yeah, in Sacrifices, yes. I think I had a character that once was the Sacrifice.
He's a jerk. That
Yes.
Arcane Oh, he's a jerk.
Yes.
I know what you
He
mean.
is indeed a jerk.
No, I had Kobold's New Ringleader on my list, but way down, because it as a free-to-play option, it is something. And once upon a time, years back, before there were bravery bonuses and things like that kind of thing, I would have had that. That probably would have been my pick. But nowadays, it's a level 2 quest, and at that level, XP just falls. It just falls out of the air. You walk down the street of the harbor, and suddenly you're like level 3.
Yes.
So I tossed aside Kobold's New Ringleader just because of that reason, and I focused more on stuff that was higher level. Now, what I almost said that was a little bit lower was the Bloody Crypt, because I know if you have
Yeah.
if you have 4 people in the party and everybody's doing their own wing, you can do it in 8 minutes, and that's just tons of XP per minute. It's yum, yum, yum. And then you have a chance to get maybe some cool things at the end, like a shield cookie. Shield cookies, I like shield cookies. They're nice.
Shield
That's kind of getting
cookies are
onto
very
another topic. That's kind of getting on
You
another
should have
question.
one if you're on the pit.
But I went with the missing party because it's something that I love doing the missing party, and there are so many optionals. I think if you didn't have all of those different Omeron whatchamadoodle things that you can kill, there's like 7 of them, and then if you kill them all, you get like 50% of the total quest XP all over again. So it's like you get a double dip for doing the optionals in that quest. And it makes it like the XP per minute pretty darn high, and it takes a lot less time to do that quest than, say, if you're trying to farm certain high XP ticket quests like the Pit or Gwillin's or Tear of Dakan.
Okay, actually, would it repeatedly farming an instance? I thought that gives you an XP penalty if you do that.
You can. Well, if you do like an elite, then a hard, then a normal, you don't get any kind of penalty. Nowadays, you do get a penalty, like minus 20% for every time you rerun it. But you can certainly farm it, run it 3 times, and it still comes out to be really juicy. In the old days, back in the dark times, or maybe the light times, depending on your point of view, you could run the same quest like 12 times if it was a really nice XP quest, window farm it, and it would still be worth your while to get that last little bit of XP juice out of it, because there were certain quests you could run really fast if you were in a good group or you were very familiar with it, if you were a dirty Zerger.
You always have gotten a penalty for rerunning stuff. The change is now you get minus 20% every time you run it, and then it decays. It used to be the second time you ran it, it was minus 10, then 20, 30, 40, 50, then it was like 75, then like 90% or something. And that never went away. You always had that penalty for repetition.
Oh, and what's the decay rate?
Currently, it's 50% a day.
50%.
So if you run a quest up to a minus 60% penalty, the next day you will have a minus 10% penalty.
The
Which
day
is
after
why-
that is a minus
Would be back-
5%.
No, it'd be minus 50% total, just the number 50 in a percent. So the next day it would be down to 0.
Yeah.
Okay.
So nowadays, that's why people tend to run quests daily, because they still get their big bang, as opposed to running it on one day repeatedly.
Bonnie, you get 500 experience points for your use of optionals, and I liked what you're saying about the time. And it's not, you don't necessarily need a full party, but if you have it, you can kind of split it up. So good versatility on that. Evennote, and finally, if you each get 100 XP, finally for saying that you don't is going everywhere and going down the kind of doing the whole tour. And Couples of the Ringleader is a good XP farm still. I like talking about chests and the quick shortcut as well. So I think that puts currently Bonnie has 1,100, Evennote has 1,000, and Pineleaf has 900. Going into our next question, which is, what quest should you avoid? And this time we are starting with Evennote.
I am so glad we are starting with Evennote. When I did my little text file of answers, I put this in all caps. So I kind of wish you could see the text of this, but I'm not going to shout because I'll disturb other people's house. Stealthy repossession. Do not go near this quest. Kobolds hate you.
Oh, yeah.
If you don't already hate them, you will by the end of this one. I mean, come on, you have to keep stuff alive that's trying to kill you. Everybody hates escort quests unless you're like really loony. I mean, but even Coil at least is on your side trying to help you in his own completely demented, useless way. This time you are trying to keep stuff alive that is trying to kill you, and it has friends that are trying to kill you. The stuff that you have to keep alive really doesn't try very hard to kill you, but it's sadly very easy to kill, and it has these shaman friends who are very good at killing you, and they harry you, and you can try to invis through it, but if you're not good at invising, and a lot of classes aren't, it's yucky. Don't go in there. You will never come out. You will hate it.
Pineleaf?
Well, as much as it's hard for me to say something could be possibly worse than stealthy repossession, to me, the first thing that came to my mind was Dr. Rushmore's mansion behind the door.
Okay.
I actually don't really know that one. I don't run a lot of
I
challenges.
love and hate that place. You know, it's like, it's so cool and yet it's so horrible. It's just, I have mixed feelings every time I go in there.
Right. It's just, I've tried it on a couple of occasions, and it looks like just when I look like I'm starting to make progress, then 20 monsters pop out and kill me.
I do think that that's something you don't want to do by yourself. You should like bring a steel render or something, and then it'll be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, you need multiple people to do Dr. Rushmore stuff.
Well, yeah, that's it. Because I have to admit I've only done a couple of times solo and paired, but then I do most of my stuff with small group numbers. And so therefore you will get, so my answers are going to be based on that assumption, you know, doing one thing usually with one or two people. But yes, that is, the other challenges are just as much as a headache, but Dr. Rushmore's takes the cake.
It's like, bring Lessa.
Oh, yes, that's why I was sure my
If you're
saying
doing a
this. that
challenge,
Lessa
bring
was the
Lessa,
first
and
thing I
it'll
was
be
gonna say.
5 times better.
Well, yes, but most likely if I brought Lessa, then I wouldn't know what happened. It'll be over before I blink.
That's true.
That's not always all bad. Bonnie, what quest should you avoid?
Well, my knee-jerk reaction was the grotto. I mean, now, first life, you can't help it. But if you've reincarnated and you accidentally click the wrong dialogue option and you have to do the grotto over again, it sucks to be you.
What? I do it every time.
It's 2 freaking minutes out of your life.
That's kind of like, that's a silly answer. My real true heart answer, the one I have deep feels about, is Devil Assault. because you can first do it at level 6. But why would you do it at level 6? Come on, that's epic stuff. You don't touch that. Just don't touch it. No touch.
I love Devil Assault.
Step away. It's great, but there's
It's
no
the one
reason to
quest
do
I don't
it.
get lost in.
It's no reason to do it. There's absolutely no reason to.
Although
ever
my guilty
do
would tell you
it
otherwise.
On heroic normal at level 6. The first time you should even be able to consider it is maybe level 18 if you're looking for base hand wraps or something, or ingredients to make boots for Tower of Despair or something like that. Because you just don't get the goodies, and it's like a waste of the first time you run the Devil Assault. So save that for when you're epic. Don't go there. I will say I love stealthy repossession. But then,
You are a...
That's one person.
okay,
You
I'm
also
a
have an
dirty zerger.
owlbear sanctuary with owlbear heads on the wall. Why should we trust you?
I'm a dirty zerger. Okay, I do not deny this, and I regularly do stealthy repossession. I drink a haste pot. I cast invis on myself, and I just run, and pull levers. Cast invis on myself again. Run. Pull lever. Cast invis on myself again. Run. Pull lever. Cast invis on myself again. Run to the end. Pick up the thing, and I win. And to me, that's stealthy repossession. It's not very stealthy. I admit, if you're trying to be
Also not
stealthy
very fun.
doing stealthy repossession, oh, I get the adrenaline. It's the adrenaline of the running and like being like, oh my god, do I have dungeon alert yet? Oh my god, and you're running. So I get a kick out of the adrenaline of running through the place. So I do it a lot. At least the one time for the first time run.
Everybody hates Coil. Everybody hates escort quests, but at least other escort quests, even Coil, you've got stuff that's at least on your side. This time you've got to keep these suckers alive, and they want to kill you.
See, I don't even
They
fight
are
anything.
worse than Coil. You
I
cannot
don't-
possibly get worse than Coil except this.
I mean, I zerg it, so in stealthy repossession, I don't kill anything until I've already picked up the gem and won, and then I kill just enough stuff to recall out. But, I mean, that's a playstyle choice. But I don't think that makes it something that you have to avoid. I think there's a lot of people who run it regularly, but it's probably maybe because of their lifestyle choices. But because there are people who do that, I don't think that makes it the quest that you should totally avoid. And Dr. Rushmore behind the door, I don't know. It can go horribly wrong. It can. So
It
I
always
can
goes
see that.
horribly wrong.
But it's a cool place.
Unless you got
It's
Lessa with you.
Dr. Rushmore's mansion is a place you should definitely visit. You know, because
wouldn't want to
there's
live
some
there.
character there. You wouldn't want to live there, and sometimes you regret that you went there, but it's a place you need to see. It's really cool. It has nice character to it.
Pineleaf, why is Rushmore's behind the door worse than the other two?
Well, it's very hard to give an argument about it being worse than stealthy repossession. But as for Devil Assault, I've only done it at the lowest level, so I don't know why you're saying, "Oh, you're all ruining it if you're doing it if you don't do it at a
Because
higher
you're
level."
throwing away your XP like for completing it the first time, and you don't get goodies. You don't get as many goodies. The best goodies are when you do it at a higher level.
Oh, you got to remember is I don't care much about the XP and the goodies as you do.
You just want to stay alive. So, I mean, yeah. Well, because of, and here again, this is lifestyle choices. Because you're permadeath playing each class, yeah, you're going to want to try all of these different quests and see if you can make it through them playing by your permadeath rules.
Well, I have to
that's
admit, that
understandable.
Devil Assault is not a choice I'd make when I'm doing a permadeath character. But that's because...
It's not your first choice.
It's not my first choice.
You
of
would
a
do the
quest.
grotto before you did Devil Assault.
As I said, I always do the grotto.
Oh, man. But I think of the grotto.
The grotto is worth
like,
it just for the Jeets dialogue.
It's got anti-zerg technology in it, and it's like 10 minutes of my life that, you know, when I TR, I'm ready to go. I want to get going. I want to run through quests and I want to like get things done. And if I pick the wrong dialogue option and I'm suddenly having to learn how to play DDO all over again when I've been playing the game for like 6 years now, I'm like, oh my god, I can't believe I have to do the grotto. Oh.
The worst part about the grotto is that you have to run
level.
Misery's Peak.
But you do get to hear, like, some cute thing. Like, Vegeta gets to say, I can go all night long, you know, and stuff like that. And he's right behind Salimus and stuff like that. Now, that's cute. I give the grotto that. Even though the grotto is not really one of our official choices anymore, I keep talking about it.
I think you would have a stronger argument with the grotto, because especially would have brought in the idea that you can't get off Korthos till you finish Misery's Peak if you do the grotto.
Oh my god. That is terrible. That would be terrible.
I'm just wondering if there's anybody at Turbine I can bribe to set Bonnie's account so that every time she logs on, she has to run the grotto.
Wow.
I have done nothing worthy of that kind of penalty. Like that guy who got penalized and he has -1 to all of his rolls and saves now. Did you see the tweets about that this week?
No.
What was that?
There's some guy who's been penalized like throughout DDO, throughout Dungeons and Dragons, period. Now, so it's like, whoa, that's a big penalty. That's what making me do the grotto every life would be like.
Probably worse than that. In any case, I'm going to give Evennote 400 experience. Great choice. I think your argument of keeping stuff alive, particularly if it's trying to kill you, is a really solid argument, particularly for newer folks. It's a pretty hard thing to kind of wrap your brain around, and it's always kind of a trick. And finally, if you get 300 for picking Dr. Rushmore, like what you were saying about that one, and Bonnie, you get 200 experience for knocking the other two down, but you didn't really sell me on Devil's Assault very much. And Pineleaf knocked that one pretty good too.
I should have stuck with the grotto.
You probably should have. Would have been a good one. All right.
Grotto!
Our next question. Our next question is, what monster is most likely to kill you? And appropriately, we're going to start with the permadeath player, the Bunch Pineleaf.
Oh, somehow calling me a permadeath player is much, as I said, but certainly not.
Well, you
are
permanently dead, so.
Well,
Profiling.
Yeah, but all right. As for especially considering, comparing me to Lessa, who's a much better permadeath player than I am. But as for what monster's most likely to kill me, I would have to say whatever monster is manning that Gatling ballista in the Temple of Elemental Evil.
All right.
That's probably a kobold.
No, actually, it's a human who's behind there. That he just blasts me into smithereens every single time. I mean, I don't know. Is there a way to survive? The only way I've ever survived that is having a rogue go into stealth behind them and killing them. But when I'm playing solo, they can't. I don't have that option. There's a reason why I don't take a permadeath character through there.
Bonnie?
I'm going to say Hobgoblin Slayer. Because...
monster, not quest.
No, just Hobgoblin Slayer. That's the type of monster.
Okay.
In a bunch of quests, mainly Tangleroot, but other quests too, they're horrible. They're horrible. Oh my god, they're terrible. And the reason why they're terrible is they can crit you. And if they crit you, you might very well be dead. And at that level, you may not necessarily have 100%. You may not have heavy fort. You may not have 100% fortification. And so their big whammy is to crit on you and make you dead, and you don't have necessarily protection against that. I'm not sure there's... Unless you're like a Warforged, or you have some extra things giving you exceptional fortification, you are pretty much out of luck. There's always that chance they'll get you.
These things are... Hobgoblins, are those things that are in places like Chanticleer?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They can be in Chanticleer. They can be in Tangleroot.
You're talking about the ones with the two-handed swords?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's like the one kind. They're the one kind of Hobgoblin that can really stick it to you.
I don't know. For me, it's when I get killed by a hobgoblin, it's because I'm having trouble getting to one that's shooting me with a crossbow or a bow. I said the Slayers. I don't think ever gave me a trouble.
Oh, it's the Slayers. I can see them. You can see them wind up. They have this whole little dance kind of thing they do right before they're going to smite you or whatever with their two-handed weapon. And I see them coming, and I'm like, oh, please don't crit, and then they crit, and I'm like crying. That's how I think of Hobgoblin Slayers. I'm just like, please don't crit me.
Hobgoblin tears.
If you can do anything to prevent the Hobgoblin Slayers from touching you, like if you have ranged abilities or you have casting abilities that like nukes them before they can touch, then yeah, that's because they have a bad touch.
Evennote?
I'm going to go, first of all, anything with a crown on its head is automatically anything with a crown.
A Hobgoblin Slayer with a crown! Oh my god!
But I'm going to go with, and you see a lot of the lower levels, and I think my mindset is a little bit lower level than you guys because I'm kind of thinking more 1 to 4 than like 6, 7. Those Kobold Shaman, you run into them in waterworks.
Oh!
You know, and even without the damn crowns, and it doesn't matter if you're ranged, they can still reach you, and they hop up on things where you can't reach them if you're melee, and they cast that fog all around them, so that all their buddies can hit you and you can't see it coming, and they just devastate you, and they're mean and awful, and they still hate you, and they remember waterworks, and frankly, I hate them too.
Well, because of waterworks, I could just imagine there's a scene in the waterworks where trying to get to those hobgoblin and trying to get to those kobold shaman and that actually I think they're just throwers in there or something. There's probably there's some shaman in there also trying to get up to them. Yeah, half the time you're dead by the time you reach them if you haven't figured out how to do it yet.
Yeah, like aren't there?
And the throwers are bad enough, but
yes, the throwers are bad enough.
In the same quest, like a twofer. I think there's something that has Hobgoblin Slayers and Kobold Shamans, like a twofer.
There is a reason why in the harbor I have a habit of not doing things at hard, and that's because the shaman go around blinding me and holding me constantly, and I can't do anything.
And then they hit you with that lightning bolt, and you're just toasted,
Right.
Fried halfling, roasted halfling.
But I say that the Gatling ballista though one-shots me, so therefore.
I don't know.
And the rest of the party at the same time.
But they're only in one place, so that's. I mean, you're more likely to get killed by a kobold shaman because you're running into those suckers everywhere.
In Temple, I think I'm more likely to get killed by a half-orc crossbowman because I don't necessarily have. Well, I mean, I might have Spear Block 3, maybe, if I'm lucky, and it works out that way, to protect myself from the range damage. But I really think range damage that is non-ballista type is more dangerous for me in Temple. Kobold Shamans, I kill them first, so I will admit that. That's the first thing I go for. But if you have them targeted, unless they jump up in one of those little wiggly corners, you can just, murder. And that's what Festival cookies are for anyhow.
Yeah.
You throw down a
Festival
cookie that does crowd control, and then the shamans are helpless, and you live happily ever after. And I think
you're a new player who's like level 4 and you don't have Festival.
But they are easy enough to kill. Just target them, and you can make it through the obscuring mist to where they are and kill them.
Suppose there's 3 or 4 of them, as there so often are.
Well, I mean, that's what the tab key's for. I just target.
But the guy's buddies kill you while you're trying to kill him.
But I don't know. I don't think I have a problem with them killing me. I have a problem with them making things annoying.
Boy, do they make things annoying.
But they don't. I don't really think of them as something that I have problems killing me a lot.
Right.
I would have given more credit for something like Barrow White that can sound burst you, something like that as something almost as dangerous as a Hobgoblin Slayer that touches you badly. But yeah, Hobgoblin
Yes, but what
Slayer.
about when the shaman casts Hold Person on you and you can't move and you can't kill them?
I'm gonna give 500 XP to Evennote. I think she hit it pretty hard and is a clear victor here. And I'm gonna give Pineleaf 100 XP for using the word smithereens in a sentence. All right, we're gonna go on to the next question. What piece of gear should you most be looking for? We're gonna start with Bonnie.
I hated this question. Because piece of gear. Well, okay, the number one gear that comes to mind doesn't even qualify for the answer to this question, because I think the number one piece of gear you tell people to get is Voice of the Master. But you have to do a level 8 quest to get that. So that's out the window. So all other gear kind of starts to get
I'd allow the
class-based.
Voice. It's a level 5 item.
A lot of other stuff, yeah, but you have to do stuff that isn't like necessarily in that 1 through 7 range to obtain it. So I disqualified it in my brain. Now you could get that thing from Temple of Elemental Evil that's level 7, but nobody would ever do that when they could get a Voice of the Master. So I threw Voice of the Master out because you have to do level 8 quests to get it. So there's a lot of awesome gear that you can get, but it's more based on what type of character you are. How are you playing? You know, are you a two-handed fighter? Are you a two-weapon fighter? Are you forged? Are you not forged? You know, there's a lot of things that would be really awesome if you're a particular type of character and brings more bang for the buck than what I'm actually going to say, which is Visor of the Fleshrender Guards, because Death Ward is pretty darn cool. And everybody should have a pair of those. If you're a first life character and you don't have any gear, you want a pair of Visor of the Fleshrender Guards, because it is a Death Ward clicky, and Death Ward is very important in this game. Now, here again, if you're a class build that is going to get the Death Ward spell anyhow, it loses some of its punch. But at least it's it's a level 5 item, so yay! But I didn't like this question, but I'm going to go with Visor of Fleshrender Guards.
It's a good choice. Evennote.
I do think everybody is probably going to want one of those, except, you know, like Pale Masters, but a lot of classes do get the spell. You could be running with somebody who gets the spell, and you have to run Tangle Route to get it, which sucks in my opinion. And I think I'm looking at this differently than you, Bonnie, because I'm looking at somebody who's, you said low levels, I'm looking at somebody who's just starting out in DDO, doesn't know a lot. If I were starting a brand new character, one of the first things I would look for would be some kind of a permanent Featherfall item, because when Even was new, I think she died splatting, running off the ramps in Harbor, more than she died to mobs. And that's just, you know, that's a really embarrassing way to die.
But you can get a Featherfall item on Korthos with like 1 clicky, so it's not like, you know, there's that option right from the get-go when you're doing Korthos.
Right, which is the first thing I take in Korthos.
Right, but I mean, you know, Harbor, it gets to be laggy, you're running up those ramps, there's, you know, 1 Featherfall clicky, sometimes it's not nearly enough, and having it on permanently is just really, really nice when you're new, low levels, and you die a lot by splatting.
Pineleaf?
All right. Now, I was going to take Perma Featherfall, but seeing that that has already been taken, I will give a secondary, because I did have to have a secondary one chosen, because it's almost as important as a Perma Featherfall one, and that is anything that gives you a permanent jump skill boost, because without jump skill, there are half the dungeons I'm just going to jump up and really need that Featherfall item. And it'll save me a lot of time if I don't spend the time slowly floating down, coming back up, and trying again. So therefore, I will say something that boosts up your jumps and you don't have to remember to take a bloody potion in order to do it.
See, I was really thinking named items. I was thinking named items with answering this question.
I don't remember all the named items.
Death Ward? I mean,
if I wasn't going, if I took away that kind of rule that I put in my head in interpreting this question, I would go for Cure Serious Wound Pots. I mean, come on, you want to heal yourself and stay alive. So put all your money that you get from doing any quest into pots to heal yourself. If
Oh, that's what
we're
the clerics
talking
are for.
if we're talking non-name stuff, I mean that's what I would go for. Um, but name stuff, Visor of the Fleshbender Guards is really probably the best option. Now, there's other things I could say, but it doesn't apply to a lot of different characters. So it's stuff that I absolutely positively want to have if I'm playing certain types of characters. But if I'm playing other types of characters, I either can't use it or it doesn't do me any good. So I think the Visor of Fleshbender Guards, it is something that potentially, at some point in time is going to get some use out of it. And it's bound to account. So if you end up having more than one character, you can just pass it on over. Like, here, have some Death Ward love, So in terms of name things, yeah. Visor of the Fleshbender Guards.
That's one Death Ward clicky that lasts for 7 minutes? Whereas Featherfall is good even out of quests if you're clumsy
But
or
there's
lagging.
so many Featherfall items drop, though, whether it's boots,
Yes, and you
whether
should
it's
need one.
bracers.
The question is what you should
I don't
get.
think it doesn't take much effort to get one.
Who
But you
said
should
what
get
takes
one.
the most? What needs effort is what you must get.
I mean,
Exactly.
it's like I pulled that all the time. I think it's harder to get a jump skill boost than it is to get Featherfall items. I mean, I think every single time I get a Featherfall thing from chests or from the end reward list of some quest while I'm in the harbor. So I think it's perfectly fine for the cloak that you get on Korthos to tide you over, do a couple quests in the harbor, and you're going to get a Featherfall item. I just don't think they're that rare.
Oh, I'm not saying
They're
they're rare. I'm
useful.
saying you need one, and you should get one. It doesn't matter how easy it is to get. That is something, if you keep, going for the +2 long sort of
I don't know. I think
bloodletting instead of the Featherfall, you're
it's
going to
kind
regret it.
of to me, that's kind of like a how do you play kind of perspective kind of thing. I mean, I think jump's a little bit more useful in some situations where it makes a difference between whether you can or you can't do something.
Oh,
I don't use Featherfall a lot. In fact, I mean, I rue the day in upper levels when I'm wearing the Epic Inferno bracers that has Featherfall on them. That's the only thing about the item that annoys me is that I always have Featherfall on. So I guess it depends on. I think that's a player preference kind of thing.
Well, that's epic levels. I mean,
some people don't want to have Featherfall.
Epic level tunes that
like
don't
I just jump off the ramp in the harbor and take the damage. That's how I roll. I mean,
if you are a newer player, 1 to 4, and you haven't played, and I'm thinking of someone who's starting DDO, because let's say if you've played DDO, you probably already know what you want from 1 to 7. We wouldn't even need to ask these questions.
If you're a new player and you jump off of something and you get that falling damage, you think, okay, well maybe I shouldn't jump off something.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can't help it. There's enough lag going on in Harbor anymore and Market and some other places that sometimes you fall off whether you want to or not.
All right.
Pineleaf, I want to hear more about the why you need a skill boost for jump.
Why you need a skill boost for jump?
Yep.
Well, because let's face it, I'm horrible at. I noticed that I am 10 times better at jumping when I've got a skill boost to jump than when I don't have one. If I don't have a skill boost to jump, I can't get 3 inches without falling down flat on my face. So yes, it is I've noticed a huge difference between how well I jump based on my jumping skill. And it keeps you from falling, first off, and if you're not falling, then you don't need that feather fall thing as much. It helps you to complete quests because there are so many quests in there that require you to do some jumping in there. And if you're soloing something, you just can't ask your partner to go up and hit that switch that's jumped up there, that's way up there, because there's no one to ask. And I'm sure Draculetta is tired of going up and doing jumps for me in order to get up there. And right now, my main character, my artificer, doesn't have it, so I'm making sure that I get that plenty of jump stuff whenever I'm going through. Now, unfortunately, it's hard to get it. Now, you could pump skill points into it, but if you don't have that as a class skill, then you really need that. And personally, I think at low levels, good jump skill to keep you from falling is 100 times more useful than Death Ward, because Death Ward sounds like it's going to be more useful after level 7, in my opinion.
And I will also say in favor of jump skill, there are a couple quests where you really do benefit from it. Like Party Crushers, which I talked about before. You know, it helps you if you're in the theater and you want to like jump up and kind of cut through the seats to head on to the party. You need to have a certain amount of jump to even make that happen. Also, I think it's the Sunken Sewer. Here again, if you're cut, and I'm talking about Zerger things, dirty Zerger things again. If you want to like do it the fast way, you need jump skill to at least get up that little bump to your left instead of going to your right when you start the quest. And you need the jump to be able to skip pulling levers and just jump up onto the bridge. So having some jump can be helpful at some lower level quests, just for ease of completing them. If you're a dirty Zerger like me.
All right. So for this one, I think even though it was right, I don't think the question isn't really about how easy it is to get something. So I don't think that the argument against permanent featherfall is very strong. It doesn't hurt its chances here, because I think it's and what you were saying, Evennote, about it, particularly for new players, and that consideration I think is great. So you get 500 experience points for that. Pineleaf, the jumping is, I think Bonnie helped you out a little bit there too. There's a lot of places where jumping is just really helpful, really helps you get through stuff in this quest, and there's a lot of areas of the quest where it's just easier to do the quest with jump. So you also get 500 experience points. And Bonnie, with the Visor of the Flesh Renders, I really like you talking about how taking into class consideration, everyone can utilize it, even at low levels, and Deathward is certainly great. So you also get 500 experience points.
Everybody wins!
Great arguments. I can do that. It's not, yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see. Last question. What adventure pack is a must-have? And we're going to start with Evennote.
Oh, man, this is the question I hated. The very first one I ever bought when I was free to play was Carnival. I think that's still a great choice. I'm not a big fan of Catacombs or Tangle Root just because they're so repetitive and not very fun. And I'm not a Zerger. I'm a flower sniffer, so I like fun. I would probably, though, if I have a free to play account, if I get a pack on her, it's probably going to be either Three Barrel Cove or Dolera's. Dolera's just for the crazy XP the first time you run it in the voice. Three Barrel Cove, though, is the one I would run over and over. There is some good loot. It's a crazy, awesomely good wilderness, but it's also really fun. You have pirates and ships, and you do. Dolera's doesn't have a wilderness, and it's also, if you're new, you haven't run it before, it can be incredibly confusing to figure out which NPC to talk to. Those were my two main choices. I also like Sentinels, but I think overall,
Wait,
I
which
would
one are
go
you
with
picking?
3BC.
3 Barrel Cove, okay.
Darn. That's what I was gonna say.
That's it too. Pineleaf, what adventure pack is a must-have?
A must-have. Well, seeing that I've already talked about the temple, I'm not going to give you that one. Instead, I will give you one of the things that I do every single time when I'm doing my low-level permadeath thing, is I make sure I do every single time. Actually, there are several of them I do every single time, but I would say the Sharn Syndicate. A nice set of quick, fun quests that you do. And I know everyone's thinking about big, powerful XP and stuff like that. And believe me, if you're looking for big, powerful XP fat loot quests, then yeah, then throw that one out the window. I'm looking at this for some quick, fun quests to do when I have a few minutes.
Bonnie?
Okay, since Even said Three Barrel Cove, I'm saying Dolera's Graveyard. Because reasons. I mean, Voice of the Master, Carnifex, and I think there's some other things like Serpent Branch and stuff that you can get from the Inquest reward. It's not necessarily wasn't going to be my first choice because here again you have level 3 to 8 quests in that pack. So I think that's a little bit dodgy, but you do have some really high XP opportunities. You have this nice storyline, like, you know, a legitimate storyline where you get to hear about some history of Eberron and about this character of Delaera and all that. And certainly, I think her family kind of pops up in a few other little places in the world. So it's worth it to know some stuff about the game lore. Yeah, the quest just can't be beat in terms of they're things you can run really quickly. They're things you can explore. They're things that have a lot of optionals. They're things that don't have so many optionals. They're things that you could like do with a full party, but you can also do it with just one person and a hireling. So there's a lot of flexibility with the quests available in there. Yeah, I just like it. Now, I'm going to say...
You left out the two most important words.
What?
Gary Gygax.
Oh, yeah. You know what? There's a reason why I left that out.
Yeah, genius man. Terrible narrator.
Yeah. It does have Gigi as DM, which is legendary. But, yeah, it's not super exciting. But it also has some of those arcane skeletons and stuff that are little jerks. Oh, yeah, I shouldn't have mentioned that. But in favor of other people's stuff, what they've suggested. Now, I will say in
favor of the other people's stuff.
But, to be fair, now, Shard Syndicate is not one of the first packs I would buy. So I'm like, must have. Maybe not so much must have. Eventually, you should have it. Because it's Coin Lord favor. And Coin Lord favor brings you inventory space, and inventory space brings you happiness. So that's in favor of Shard Syndicate, like one little more thing. And Three Barrel Cove, I just had to talk about the Slayer area and the loot. Because I haven't gotten to mention two of my favorite pieces of loot yet. And they come from Three Barrel Cove Slayers. And I just had to mention them because I love them so much. And that's the Kobold Admiral's Uniform, which is level 4 light armor that has Axe Block 3, Spear Block 3, and a blue slot. And I think that's gorgeous. I mean, if I'm playing on a bard, if I'm playing on a rogue of any type, if I'm playing on anything that's going to be using light armor, hell, sometimes even when I'm playing something that isn't using light armor, I slap that on it for at least until level 8. So that's a gorgeous thing that you can get from doing Slayers in Three Barrel Cove. And then the other thing is something that Lessa introduced me to, and it's my favorite piercing weapon, I think, in the entire game almost, and it's the Tiefling Assassin's Blade. I love it. I love it. I love poking things with that because it does con damage and it does poison damage, and it has a red slot, and it's just it's amazing. It's so much fun to stab things with. So
that's why I took 3BC over Delaera's. I mean,
that's why I was going to take 3BC over Delaera's.
There's great XP in 3BC too. There's great loot. It's just fun. You've got that great wilderness area.
Hand wraps. There's the
and
Slayer
also when you get to epic levels, you're going to still use that pack epic levels because you've got the epic versions. And 3BC is something like I don't find Delaera's overly fun. Usually, most of my tunes I run to get the voice, and once I've got the voice, that's it. 3BC I'll run over and over again because I like it. It's look at the pirates,
Yeah,
Jolly Roger's flying.
The quests are not what you think of as being fun, like super entertaining kind of quests. They are lore. It's a serious story. It's a dark story. It's kind of a sad story. And so it can be a little bit of a downer. It's a story. It's a good story. But it's not necessarily a light-hearted story. Whereas I think when you go to Three Barrel Cove, it's a more light-hearted place. They have jaunty music playing, and they have lots of things saying "R," and I think they have parrots even. So
yes, they do.
If you like those things, then yeah, Three Barrel Cove might be a really awesome place. I can't argue against Three Barrel Cove. Don't make me. Don't make me.
Pineleaf,
that
tell me.
Will be the first pack my free-to-play account gets will be Three Barrel Cove.
Pineleaf, tell me why Shard Syndicate is better than Three Barrel Cove and Delaera's Graveyard.
All right. First of all, Delaera's Graveyard is pushing the high end of it. I just know that if I attempted to do Delaera's Graveyard on a permadeath character, I would be rolling a new character before I'm over. So it's certainly more of a let's try this again type. quest area. And as I said, if you're in a, you have to be ready for a dark, heavy story before you do it. I have never finished Alara's Graveyard, I have to say. So, actually, I haven't finished Drew Barrel Cove either. And maybe I should try that again, because I know that I guess I got all confused running all over the place in the jungle out there that I think I gave up at some point in there. And at least with Sharn Syndicate, you don't get lost. All of the quests are right off of the marketplace. They're relatively easy to find. It's not like a place where you're going to get constantly lost like in Three Barrel Cove. And it's not a place where you are going to be rushed by undead bashing you constantly. like there is one in Dalera's Graveyard where you have this timed one, and it's like, where did he go? I got this clock ticking out. Tick, 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 tick. I'm sorry, you lost 5 seconds away from reaching the end point.
And it also does have one of those defense quests where you're like having to protect the graves. Oh, that is a little bit annoying. I was thinking more about the chain, not the entire graveyard.
Yes.
I will say something about Sharn Syndicate, though. You've got the Binder Rescue. I have mixed feelings about that.
Okay, I admit the Binder Rescue is what, in fact, I almost put that as my quest to avoid.
Yeah, I hate that quest.
I don't do that quest unless I have Trapper skills.
Right.
Otherwise, I skip it.
Because that quest, those are the most... I've run into suicidal NPCs before, but the ones in Bookbinder's Rescue, I must admit...
Grandma Binder, she's just all over the place.
Yeah, so you've got to learn how to do it, especially when I'm doing it with the character that... You're right, trap skills are a lovely thing to happen. And I remember, I said Artificer is my favorite class, so it helps a lot.
I will say, in favor of Sharn Syndicate, if you have trapping skills and you've gotten through the Binder Rescue, I do really like Come Out and Slay. I like the story there. I like the whole way that it's laid out and running to escape, like running. I don't know. I like running, okay? Because I'm a dirty zerger. So I do like Come Out and Slay. I don't get to do it all the time, but when I do, I feel special. But yeah, Coin Lord favor.
Right, yes. Come Out and Slay. In fact, Dracula puts that down as his favorite name for a quest.
I'm being too helpful. I need to stop saying nice things about other people's chains.
These are all really good picks. Fantastic arguments. Thank you all for some good debates, and I hope this... we'll talk about it later, but I think it's a good, helpful episode for some of maybe our newer listeners and players. I am sad to say, however, that Evennote and Bonnie have been disqualified for profaning the name of Gary Gygax. So Pineleaf is the winner.
I regret nothing.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I cannot tell a lie. He is was a brilliant man. He is a terrible narrator.
Only he was Chris Perkins.
Well, I think he prefers to improvise. That's because he's probably more a better improviser than he is reading off of a script.
That's probably a fair point. So thank you very much for debating. It's a great debate. A lot of good answers, and hopefully they'll give particularly some of the folks that are hanging out in the lower levels, newer players, will find this to be very helpful. Really all across the board. Pretty much all of these are great. Every answer given were great answers. So hopefully a lot of helpful stuff there for some of the newer players. We're going to get into game news. There's not a lot, so we'll be able to cruise through it pretty quick. There was a hot fix on Wednesday, September 2nd. It fixed an issue with enhancements and other things that boosted damage by a percentage amount not correctly functioning. Specifically, Adrenaline was a big one for that. So that's been fixed. There will be a seasonal event around the Halloween timeframe. It'll be different from the Maybar event in many ways. They'll have more information about it as they get closer to its release. They are not doing an epic version of the Vale of Twilight Wilderness area. Much sadness there. The reason isn't technical, it's just so that they can focus on some other content work. There's something Update 29 related that we haven't yet discussed. Sorry to be a tease.
Man, I hope it involves Eritricos. That's all I gotta say.
Yes, or Harry.
I love Jerry, and he's a great guy, and he's the one who posts that, but I really don't think he's sorry about being a tease. I feel that those devs, they love teasing. And spinning people like that.
Teasers.
Yeah. Regarding hirelings and levers, Varguil said that they've been able to consistently reproduce issues with hirelings pulling levers, as some players are reporting. They've seen some pathing issues where hirelings, including pets, sometimes have trouble pathing and fail once or a few times, but inevitably they end up being able to pull the lever. It's also not consistent in many or most levers they work on first try. They have seen some issues where hirelings may get briefly confused if spamming the use button over and over. If this is something that 100% causing you trouble for every lever in the entire game, please submit a bug report. Otherwise, there are particular levers that seem to be a problem. It might be an issue with that lever specifically, or with pathing in the areas around the lever, and reporting those levers as a bug is also helpful. It likely requires specific fixes for that location, similar to stuck spots or specific ladder issues. In short, if someone is experiencing 100% consistent basis, they're unable to fix that since they don't understand it and need more information. But they're pretty sure it's not happening that much. So if you run into some specific spots, you may want to bug report those. Let them know so they can kind of take a look at them. And that is the summation of the game news. There's not a lot. Bonus days this week, plus 15% epic XP and double commendations of valor. Store items, the store sales, you can get 30% off of adventure packs or quest XP elixirs, which is a great deal if you're looking to pick up another adventure pack, maybe one of the ones that we mentioned. Good time to do that. You can also get double bonus points through September 13th. The freebie for the week through September 10th is a Bell of Opening with the code KNCK11 per account. The Chronicle, the 157th Chronicle, the latter is a new player-created 30-week competition with prizes. I took a look at that. It's basically every level, each week is a level, and they're going to do a quest. Scoring is based on completing the quest on elite difficulty as low levels as possible, similar to Makar's challenge. Looks like a lot of fun. It's a longer competition, obviously, because doing 30 weeks, and raids will also be an emphasis. BonnieBew also has a new video and song about permadeath. You can check that out.
At BonnieBew.com, or check YouTube for the BonnieBew channel.
The guild for the week. Echelon is a Sarlona-based guild that recently hit level 90 and is looking for casual players that are focused on epic leveling and raiding. It's nice that you can find a casual guild that's focusing on those, because they tend to be a little bit more hardcore. The comment for the week. If a movie was made with your favorite character as the lead, who would play him, her, or it? Let's start with Bonnie.
Wait, how do you interpret that question? Your favorite character, like your favorite character that you play, or your favorite character
I think
from DDO?
Favorite character you're playing in DDO.
Oh, well, my favorite character is Zoisha, my main. And who would play her? Oh, well, she's a robot right now. So I think it would be whoever played C-3PO. Are they live?
Yes. Last
So
I
it'd be
checked.
them.
Well,
It'd
at
be
least
them.
whoever's playing for the new series.
It could be anyone. No, wait. I want Robert De Niro. No, wait. I'm a girl right now. I want, oh, what's her name? Oh my God. I'm having such a hard time with names this week. She's the one who always gets nominated for Oscars.
Meryl Streep.
Meryl Streep?
Yeah, I want Meryl Streep to play me as a robot paladin. Yeah, totally.
Interesting.
That would be awesome.
Pineleaf?
Ooh, right. I'm trying to remember who are the big name players that could. I don't keep track. Actually, yes. Who would I have my favorite character? Obviously, since my favorite character is my artificer, since I'm assuming we mean DDO character, then how about? Ooh, wait. Really bad with actor names. That's the whole problem. I was. The one who plays Harry Potter.
Daniel Radcliffe.
Yeah, Daniel Radcliffe. Thank you very much.
Evennote?
Oh, I am trying to think of any actresses who have chartreuse green pigtails, and I'm coming up blank here.
Right. Costume
One
can
who's
handle
willing to
that.
have her hair dyed chartreuse.
Margot Robbie
You know
had
something?
pink and
Let's-
blue for the Suicide Squad trailer.
Let's stick with the Harry Potter, and I'm going to go with Natalia Tena, who played Tonks in the Harry Potter movies, who can change her hair color at will, and she's also funny and tough, and I think she would be a good paladin.
If I went with my second character, Altonia, I would totally have Maisie Williams play her.
Interesting.
Yes.
I don't follow entertainment news. I've heard that name, but I don't really know who that is.
She's Arya Stark in Game of Thrones. She plays it, and she's awesome.
See, I would have to pick my main, my Warforged Barbarian, and man, I'm kind of waffling between Jude Law because he played a pretty good robot in AI, but also maybe Vin Diesel just to get a little bit more muscle mass and stature.
Plus,
And a
like
nice gravelly.
guy.
Well, you know, he
Plus,
did
his
a,
name is Diesel. How cool is that?
well that and his
Ooh.
voice work for Groot, that nice gravelly voice, I think would work really well.
Pretty synergistic right there.
Yeah.
Good choice.
Let's see, Fansite News, DDOCast, we chatted about the forums in episode 396 last week. DDO Players News discussed Chris Perkins, the Stormreach campaign, and more with BonnieBew last week. Let's see, the Order of Syncletica looked at a monk in the quest Let Sleeping Dust Lie. DDO Gamer writes about gaming with your kids. And let's see, Enrique taken by a Lantern Archon in a new blog post, and Evennote pondered the benefits of guild membership. That's a good representation.
Yeah, somebody actually reblogged that. It's from 2011, so don't take it too seriously.
Probably DDO Central. He does that occasionally. He'll pull older, so which is great because you pull in older
It's a classic
posts and
blog.
stuff. Yeah. Some video. Axel from DDO talked about why DDO is still a great game. It was a nice little video there. So he wanted to do something a little more positive than what he'd been doing recently. Let's see. DDO Players News had their 48th episode, as mentioned. And also, your 50th episode is coming up soon.
Right.
So asking for some feedback on the show, and you can share some favorite moments. Enrique was also looking at loot from breakables. And then DDO Gamer Jeff had a couple of nice posts. He was talking about one, Sorcerer versus Warlock. These are pretty different classes, but I'd say Warlock is probably a stronger, more versatile class. Sorcerer just kind of blows stuff up.
Oh,
That
well,
was my
yeah, but the
experience.
Warlock will blow up the Sorcerer.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I like my Sork and my Warlock. They're different, but I wouldn't say necessarily one's better than the other.
I think the
Okay, I
Sorcerer
haven't
has
gotten to
higher
the Sorcerer yet, so I
burst
guess
and
I
single
should talk
point
about that.
damage because of their spells. They can stack the dot spells and can really do some higher points of damage, but I think Warlock will last longer over time. Also, he was talking about, DDO Gamer was talking about a prison server, and I don't remember which game was talking about, EverQuest, I think, was adding a prison server. So basically, if you run into trouble on the main, or a certain level of trouble on the main servers, what they're going to do is, or what they're doing is, they just take your character and transfer it to a prison server where there's no form of game support. There's, but you can also pretty much do whatever you want. Apparently, there's not going to be any more penalties. So it was an interesting concept, and he was talking about whether or not DDO could use something like that. I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on the matter.
That was a really, really, really good post, and I know I sometimes read through that other forum site that shall remain nameless, and I'm sure there's a lot of people on there who would fit on a prison server very, very well. And frankly, that's not the kind of player I am, so I'd kind of like to see, get off Galanis and go to a prison server, and I won't get in your way, you won't get in mine, we'll all be happy.
Well, yeah, I guess it depends on whether or not it's a voluntary prison server or a non-voluntary
Could be
prison
both.
server? Is it like shipping you off
You
to
could deliberately
Australia?
break the rules to get sent there.
Could. He actually mentioned that specifically as being a potential problem and suggested like you could voluntarily transfer there, but it's also for, instead of banning your account, they could just ship you off to that server. So anything that would be bannable, you would just go to that server, which, as Jeff pointed out, would be something that could keep you in the game. You could still maybe buy stuff in the store and still generate some money. So it was an interesting article and discussion.
Well, that's certainly a server to avoid.
Depends on what
still
you're
feel
doing.
like if people want to be on one of the main servers, they're going to find a way, whether they use proxies or something.
The trouble is that I suspect that the people who are most likely going to be sent to the prison servers are the ones who want to do those things against people who aren't the type that will be sent to that server, if you get what I mean.
Because in a way, I think it's a little bit of an ego thing or just not caring thing. So they would.
Well, there's also potentially exploitive stuff going on, but
yeah,
it was an interesting thought, interesting discussion, I thought. Let's see, DDOCast news. DDOCast Splat will be back on Tuesday with our next episode, and episode 400 is coming up. So if you have a favorite moment or something like you kind of give a shout out or what DDOCast has meant to you, please leave a comment. I'll probably come up with something more formal here this week. But starting to put together that show. Should be a lot of fun. Hoping to get some special treats for you guys for that episode and to kind of celebrate 400 episodes of DDOCast, which is a lot. Assuming we did every week, that's, 8 years? So
yeah,
it's a long time.
Crazy long time.
Let's see, and if you were at PAX last weekend, hope you had fun. Thanks for those who did come out and joined us for our Gather for Buffs. Lightning post. There was a fair bit of stuff going on a particular forum post. Vargwil hopped into episode 394, which was the DDO debates big stuff, and he said he'd been a bit behind on the DDO blog, casts, and social spheres, but he made it a point to make sure he got through this whole show since it was so topical and full of crunchy bits. He said, good job as usual, well done. The table of contents was exciting. If others have thoughts, he wanted asked for people to chime in, and they did. He also mentioned that particular cast had at least an hour of DDO systems and areas where Quill has contributed to and or will contribute to in the future. So extra thanks for an episode almost custom made for him. You're very welcome, sir. Glad you enjoyed it. Always nice to hear from folks about them enjoying the show, particularly the devs. That's always kind of fun. Some of the stuff that was posted in there, Hafel said, great show and really appreciates the work. He had one constructive criticism of that podcast particularly. He perceives a lack of insight for the truly casual player and little more than lip service for new players. The guests, while entertaining and very insightful, are often talking on points that casual players may be a long way from enjoying. I think a casual perspective would be helpful in rounding out the conversations. I just kind of wanted to speak to that on the show a little bit. I don't really go actively recruiting guests. It's mostly folks that were either already involved in the show or got involved with doing some other things. Or, as example, Axel, I pulled him in for that show because he was talking about some of the topics that I wanted to talk about specifically already. But if you have someone in mind who maybe can provide that perspective, please have them email me at ddocast@gmail.com. That's the best way if you want to see that kind of perspective. I don't really have a whole lot of extra time to go recruiting specifically for those perspectives in mind. Having said that, I do try and, when I put together guest lists for shows, I first kind of ping people who I know are going to be able to speak knowledgeably about the topics or have good experience with those topics. I always try to make sure that we have people who know what they're talking about, and we're covering topics that are what people are interested in hearing about us talk on the show. So I always kind of err on the side of getting people who know what they're talking about, which kind of generally means that they're going to be more experienced players. It's just kind of how, I'm not sure how to find someone that is a newer player, but but can add a knowledgeable perspective to a lot of the topics we end up talking about.
That's
Wait.
a little bit of a catch-22. Like
Yeah.
some of your recent episodes, like helmets and necklaces and things like that, you pretty much have to have somebody who's played the game a little bit to offer their perspective, and a truly new player giving the perspective just maybe isn't going to be aware of some stuff. So it kind of puts you between a rock and a hard place on that. Then again, there's people like me who just talk about, who are exactly what they are concerned about, who maybe talk too much from the point of view of somebody who's been around the block, who's done it.
Well,
many,
I
many,
talk
many
from that
times.
perspective too, so that's not
Yeah,
my thing.
so that's
Yeah.
hard.
I'm the eternal noob, so
Great job.
Yeah, and I do have, there's concerns about having topics for newer players, and I do try and come up with topics that are with that in mind. I think the whole Gear series kind of has that in mind. I know we're talking from a bigger perspective or more experienced perspective. I don't think that's a bad thing.
Yeah. Is it today's episode geared toward newer players?
Yes, it is.
Uh-oh.
Indirectly, yes. Well, and I went through, and there's a lot of episodes that are actually geared towards newer players in mind. But at the same time, they're tended to be populated with guests that are more experienced players. The other thing I have to keep in mind with guests is we have to get our schedules to sync up, which sometimes is a trick.
Really hard.
Particularly when you start, I'm kind of trying to aim for 2 or 3 guests a show these days. Particularly with the debate episodes, I try and get at least 3 people to kind of be debating. And then if it's me, then I have to find a moderator to kind of help move things along. So there's a lot of things that kind of go into that. But also I'm looking for people that want to do it and are having fun doing it, because it is time out of our day to do this. I mean, this is every show that I do is time out of me playing DDO. That's really what it comes down to. And I kind of assume that that's going to be true for the other folks that are on the show as well. So there's a lot of things that kind of go into that. Having said that, if there's a topic that you want us to talk about, from particularly that you think will be helpful for a section of players that you feel is being underrepresented, please let me know. And specific topics really help. Just saying that I don't feel that you have enough topics for new players doesn't really help me very much, because from my perspective, I can look back and say, well, I've done this topic, this topic, this topic. These 3 are all very specifically new player oriented. These ones have new players in mind, but not just new players. So I can go back and do that. And so it really, really helps me if you want to give that critique, and I welcome that critique absolutely. If you can be very specific about, hey, do a show on this topic, and I'm always looking for topics. So please send me topics. I like getting new topics, and I have a list. It may take a while to get to it, because sometimes I'm trying to be basing my topic on who's available for guests. Sometimes it's based on what's going on in the news for DDO kind of stuff. There's a lot of things that I kind of try and take into account when I'm picking what the show is going to be about. As far as guests are concerned, if you are interested in being a guest, or you know someone who you think might be a good guest, have them get in touch with me. That's the best way. If you want to see specific kinds of people on DDOcast, that's how you're going to have to do it.
But
So
I also
that's-
appreciate this note, because in a way it's just like a reminder, say for me, or guests, to just be mindful that you're not necessarily talking to the people that you group with on a day-to-day basis. You're talking to a broader audience, and it's a good reminder.
Yeah, and the fact of the matter is, I don't play a lot in lower levels, and if I do, I'm generally getting through them as quick as I can to get back to the epic levels, where I kind of enjoy playing a lot more. So I don't run into those people a lot, so it's harder to... I don't just generally invite people to the show. I need people to be interested first, and then be responsive second. So if you want to be on the show, or you know someone who you think would be a good fit on the show, have them get in touch with me. Make sure they're responsive and go back and forth, because there's going to be a couple emails exchanged before you're actually on the show. I mean, part of it's just scheduling. But there's something you want to see please let me know. I do want to know that, but also try and be as specific as you can. If you think that certain topics didn't really, I think a lot of topics are fairly new player oriented in mind, at least generally. If you feel like that's not true, give me specifics. How can we do a better job? And I will definitely be listening to that. I think that's enough said on that. There's some questions about the worst design raid. Got a lot of discussion, which was great to see. Iron Clan in particular had some great points for why Caught in the Web is a poorly designed raid and why Abbott is a well designed raid. Some things he brought up in the thread about Abbott, basically that things can't be overpowered just because you have a stronger character. So examples were the tiles. You have to use skill to get through the tiles. You have to use skill to get through the asteroids. Infernos and encasement require you to be reactive, and they're not things that you can just use abilities necessarily to get around. And I think those are all really good points, like why the Abbott in particular is a well-designed raid. Now, I get that there were some issues with it, and had a lot of bugs, and its history isn't great, but the design is really good. My personal only complaint about the Abbott puzzles is basically how quickly they kill you if you misstep, both in the ice water and the goggles. I always kind of wanted a possibility of maybe you take some damage and you can try again, or there's only a chance that you're going to die and you can try again. The reason why I picked Titan specifically is margin of error. In my opinion, Rage should fail because you get overrun, or you fail to adjust to things that are happening in the raid, or successive penalties for misstepping. A poor choice should lead to perhaps death, not something happened and you have to start over all the time. Starting over, in my opinion, should be a penalty for many missteps, many miscues, consistently doing the wrong thing, or just not being prepared enough. So that's kind of why I picked the Titan, because it has a lower margin of error. Even if you do everything right, you're not guaranteed. You have some chance of missing with some pillars, and you end up having to rerun everything again just to redo it. I honestly have a problem with high probability of failure if it's easy to repeat. I don't know if you guys have anything you wanted to add to any of that.
I haven't done a raid yet, so.
Titan is my favorite raid. I mean, I can see where you're coming from, because nobody wants to do the pre-raid over again. I feel the same way about Vault of Night. I don't want to have to do. I want to do the one run of it, of the Von 5, and then I want to do the raid part. I don't want to get in the raid part and have everything go pear-shaped on the islands and have us somehow fail. Now, granted, it's been a really long time since I've experienced that, but I don't want to have to do Von 5 over again, ever. And I could see where some people might feel the same way about the Twilight Forge. But I love Titan so much. I mean, that whole, the tension of having to get the pillars right and to shoot the laser at the right time and go pew, 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 pew. I love that. It's one of my favorite things.
Lasers?
So, there's lasers. It's the raid with lasers.
Yeah, but half the party's just hanging out on ladders.
Now, yeah, I guess from design of a raid, it's true. It's a raid where you don't need to have 12 people in the party to do it. You only need, if you have 4 people in the party, that's plenty. So yeah,
not much of a raid if you need only 4.
In terms of design, it maybe it's not the best one, but I think in terms of sheer fun for me, it is my favorite raid to do.
I will point out too that, and I don't think this came across at any really good point in time, it's not that I don't like the Titan. There are aspects about it that I think the mechanics are kind of interesting, and you have to get the Titan to be in a specific spot and move a laser to that same spot and then shoot it with the laser. And I like that aspect of it. My chief complaint is the margin of error that you have to do. If you had 20 pillars and you only had to hit them 10 times, that'd take almost all of my complaints about the
Yeah,
raid design out of it.
when you fail a Titan, it is really kind of soul crushing.
Well,
There's not a lot of trying it, doing it again.
yeah, you have a 75%. You have to succeed 75% of the time,
But
or
man,
you lose
when
the
you
raid.
succeed, though, I feel like there's like a real kind of sense of victory, which I like about raids. I like that sense of victory, and I think Abbott has that sense of victory. I don't necessarily feel a sense of victory with Caught in the Web. I feel more like a sense of like tension and grieving and like, oh my gosh, did we get Anna through that stupid barrier, or do we have to fight more pearl keepers, so I don't feel the same sense of victory. Maybe I just feel relief that it's over.
If it was the same mechanics with a higher margin of error, I wouldn't have a problem with it.
But I think Abbott and Titan for me are two raids that have the highest sense that I've accomplished something when we've won.
Yeah. Let's see. Urjak wrote in the same thread, considering Reaper difficulty. He thinks we pretty much all got it completely wrong. We don't need a difficulty that is just a bit harder than Elite with or without rewards. What he wants is Reaper difficulty that replaces the old Epic difficulty, as in it's only runnable by capped or nearly capped characters. It's vastly harder than Epic Elite. Perhaps challenge rating 35 with all new Epic gear, probably with a system similar to the Shard Seal Scroll system. And finally, only repeatable once a day, no bypass timers. That's what he thinks would revive the endgame scene. I would say if you have anything similar to the Shard Seal Scroll system, you would have a Riot. It was not a very good system to begin with, unless shards and seals are more easily interchangeable. That was always kind of a broken system, particularly once we got past it and moved into other things. I kind of like the idea of it being basically a capped or nearly capped tunes for running a really harder difficulty. That was a lot of fun back in the day. And he got some support in that thread as well. So I just wanted to put that one out there. And then our last bit of lightning post this week comes from Chris Church. This came from episode 395, where we were talking about necklaces. A melee cleric was mentioned in the podcast. He searched for a build a while ago and found nothing he was happy with. He's asking if we're willing to share our melee cleric build. Axel isn't here to share that, although I'll probably send him an email and because I think it was his build in particular. I don't actually have a melee cleric. I tried a melee favored soul and didn't really like it. I did find I liked Druid as a melee divine class. If you're looking for a cleric or favored soul, I would say start with a couple levels of fighter. The defender stance is a nice addition, and then also would say some of the vanguard stuff because they play well with shields. And heavy armor are also good options. I don't have a build specifically I can give you. I will let Alex know, and maybe he'll do one in his show as well. But and we'll probably I'm filing this in my my builds category column for topics. So probably hit that somewhere along the line as well. With that, we're gonna close out the show. Pineleaf, why don't you tell us about the players' news and what you guys got going on?
All right. Lojo Players News. This is a podcast that has an emphasis on three components. One, of course, is the news coming out from Turbine. Second part is DDO-related news items that are related to that are on our site. And the third item are things we call outside of DDO. This is usually things that have to do with pen and paper, D&D, and also maybe with certain things like there was a lot of talk in the last few weeks about Titan's Grave, for example, which is a project that Will Wheaton was doing during the summertime. And we haven't, since Dracula and I, both of our highest characters that we've got are around level 15, so we have a little bit more of a lower level perspective than some of the other shows because we haven't seen all this thing. I'm still saying, okay, exactly what is this TR stuff that everyone's talking about?
I do enjoy when you guys talk about like going somewhere new. That's always kind of fun to listen to.
Right. Oh, yes, because we're just getting started in Evening Star, so so that entire area is going to be new for us.
Bonnie, what do you got going on?
I got nothing going on except for like that song I came out with. But I am going to be on the 50th episode of DDO Players. So I'm really excited about that. And that's going to be September 14th.
And people can follow you on Twitter where?
They can follow me on Twitter at BonnieBew. Pretty much,
And-
I'm pretty much everywhere as BonnieBew. That's BonnieBew.
And Pineleaf, what are the Twitter? We can follow Twitter for DDO Players News.
At DDO Players.
There you go.
And
And Evennote, why don't you plug what you got going on in the DDO community?
Well, I am on Twitter. I am Evennote on Twitter. I am Evennote on Twitter, aren't I? Yes.
I think you are.
Wow, I'm getting confused here. I also have the RDDO, which is basically like the old MyDDO blogging site. If you were familiar with that before Turbine took it down, it's rddo.x10.mx. That's x10, not xten. And that's just basically a conglomeration of many, many DDO-oriented blogs. And I've got my own little blog that I have kind of neglected lately, which is ddoeven@.wordpress.com.
I'll say thanks to guys for being on the show. Great debate, and I hope it will really be helpful for particularly some of our newer and less experienced listeners, but also something for some of the more experienced folks as well. That's always a difficult tension to hit sometimes. But thanks for being on the show. Thanks also to the other contributors for DDOcast. A lot of great folks make this show happen. It's not just me. And I really appreciate their help because if it was just me, that would probably not work so well. And also, thanks to Turbine and Wizards for the support and for making DDO happen. Like playing this game a lot. We all do. And thanks to Cyberus for hosting the podcast. You can hit us up at DDOcast.com for show notes, our calendar, previous shows, swag, other fun stuff. If you'd like to be a part of the show, if you have a comment on this episode, you have a question you'd like us to ask, or topics you'd like to hear us debate, you just want to say hi, you're interested in being a guest, leave a comment, email me at ddocast@gmail.com. We're on Twitter at DDOcast. All of these forums, you can get a hold of me. You can also find us on social media. Follow us for latest cast updates there. The closing tip for the week comes from Extirpator. Dragon marks only take 1 feat now and have some very useful abilities. So definitely check those out if you haven't. And quickly before we go up, Comic Relief also mentioned that Vin Diesel was also the voice of the Iron Robot, which is true. I didn't think about that at the time, but it's good.
Thanks, Comic.
Yeah, it's a good point as well. So with that, until next time, may all your attack rolls be crits, all your chests level appropriate, have fun, and don't forget to check out all of those low-level quests.